so many movies, no time to watch them all. But Twig wants to see them, so we gave Drayfrjg a call. Now they're bringing on their friends, and together they will view these. So sit back and relax, it's Twig's Missing Movies.
Hello, and welcome to Twig's Missing Movies, a show dedicated to watching the movies that Twig inexplicably hasn't seen. I'm your host, Drayfrjg, and here's our cinematically clueless crow, Corvus Twig.
It's a Corvus Twig!
It's a bird, all right, with some twigs in his hands.
Yep. You know, because every bird needs an accessory, you know?
I got my amulet, you got your twig.
Yep.
I mean,
Susie's got her art implement.
And glasses, don't forget the glasses.
And the glasses. The glasses.
I feel like it's like Clark Kent and Superman. You take the glasses off Susie, and Susie becomes like Super Chicken.
She becomes Cluck Kent.
True.
Yeah. We love Susie.
I mean, look, we love a bird who accessorizes as much as everyone else here, but
oh my gosh.
When you are a bird, and if you don't accessorize, what are you doing? You got to make yourself identifiable.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, look, I know it's kind of problematic to say they all look alike, but
I mean, no, it's true.
When it comes to the same species of bird, we do kind of all look alike.
I mean, this week alone, I've been called a crow 4 times.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean, ugh. Like,
yeah.
There's
you
like a new
being a crow? Ugh. Why would you?
Ugh. Why
would you want to demean crows like that?
I don't know about that one.
Okay, look. Either we're finishing this demeaning crows or finishing it demeaning you. And
What? Do I look like Bird Jesus? You gonna put me on a cross here for the sake of your vanity?
I don't think crucifixion would work as well on a bird.
No, not really. I mean, maybe. Sort of. We're not gonna get into the semantics of what the crucifixion is supposed to do. That just seems a little too gruesome for the show.
Yeah.
So a smidge. I mean, but like I don't know. You look at birds, right? You look at corvids, and you're like, that's just a black bird over there, right? Not that people don't realize that blackbirds are their own species entirely, almost.
Oh, I mean, there's so many species of blackbird. I mean,
birds
they're all passerines, so at least they're in the right order.
Right order, not the right species.
And then people go to Australia, and you're like, look at all these corvids. And then 50 years, ornithologists come over and will be like, these aren't corvids.
That's not it. Yeah, I had to explain that to as you know, I do work for Sock's agency. One of our talents, Snoozy, lives in Australia, and I had to explain that to them, like on stream the other day, that Australian magpies are not real magpies. They're fake.
Yeah,
they're all fakers.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Australian magpies.
Yeah, they're good birds.
Great birds.
They do the swoops.
Yeah. Deadlier than the cassowary.
Yes, but for the dumbest reason. Okay, so they're deadly in the we do a sucker punch move on you kind of way. If you lose to a cassowary, it means you didn't. You ignored the ample signs to run the fuck away.
I mean, the thing is, birds just don't kill a lot of humans, and almost every time that one does, it's in captivity
after they've been mistreated.
Yeah,
like birds are on the whole friendly creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They pack bond in the majority of orders of birds and species, I should say. Genus, species? I can't remember which one it is.
Well,
most species pack bond.
Class, bird is class, and then broken into 40 different orders.
Yeah, I mean there are
and then an order can have hundreds of families or just one family. And then genus is like a sub thing. So like the genus Corvus, which includes all crows and ravens, but not magpies.
But not magpies.
And then species. But then the thing is, like, the differentiation between species is where things get really blurry. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
the more specific you get, the less specific you get.
Yeah. Well, we mean that one bird with the extra long talons on the one finger. Okay, but this bird looks exactly the same thing and does all the same traits. Yeah, but it's not the same bird. It evolved differently. It's
Okay,
like crabs.
a Chihuahua and a Great Dane are the same species. A
Yeah.
carrion crow and an American crow are different species.
Yep.
And it's just like, what?
Hold up.
Yeah.
Even though they look remarkably the same.
Yes, I mean, the carrion crow is the closest relative to the American crow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is fact.
Whereas, like, the common raven is considered one species, but there are a subspecies that lives in Eurasia and a subspecies that lives in North America. So it's like, they're considered a subspecies rather than a different species. It's weird. It's complicated.
Look, I'm not saying that we definitely need to maybe revisit the whole, way we classify biology, because it may have been invented by some people with some very,
You're right.
not
We
great
need to go
life
back to
views.
the biblical interpretations and just have animals by their kind.
That is true.
Yeah.
It would make things so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, just go
We
to the Ark Museum, and they'll tell you that they were able to fit all the animals on the Ark because there's only like 1,000 different kinds of animal.
Yep.
And then apparently, then every species on Earth had rapid evolution since then. But evolution's also fake. Don't try and don't.
Yeah. Evolution's weird. Evolution's a weird concept. Like, it can work very quickly sometimes, or it can work very slowly sometimes. And sometimes it's doing both at the same time. Like, humans are losing their need for wisdom teeth. So our wisdom teeth have progressively gotten to this point where, like, our jaws are shorter because we don't need them to eat. And so that's why, like, a lot of people have to get wisdom teeth removed these days. But, like, 400 years ago, that wasn't actually a concern because the diet required you to have longer jaws to eat.
Silly humans. They should just have beaks. Beaks are so much better.
Yeah. Beaks are a lot better.
But, you got to use something to eat when you're having dinner. Perhaps with a friend. And perhaps
with
that
Andre,
friend...
would you say?
Yeah, having dinner with a friend.
Well, Twig, that's great to hear, because I hope you like dinner conversations. This week, our movie is Dinner with Andre.
Wow.
That is a 1981 American comedy drama directed by Louis Malle and written by the starring actor Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn. Who you might know Wallace Shawn from such titular movies as Princess Bride.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable, I know.
But, I mean, also the Grand Negus, Rex from Toy Story, the boss from The Incredibles, the principal in a Goofy movie. I mean, Wallace Shawn is...
Wait. Who's the principal in the Goofy movie?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, he only has a couple lines. He's a very minor character, but yeah.
I mean, probably why I don't remember that. He's also in everyone's favorite TV show, Young Sheldon.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, he's one of those character actors that's been in so many things. Like, his IMDb's got to be a mile long,
Absolutely has to.
But I love it.
I mean,
every time he shows
also
up, I'm like, yay, Wallace Shawn!
He's like I can't say he's always a supporting character, because there's a few movies where he is a main character. But he's like one of those background characters or supporting characters that does such a good job at convincing you that's a character in the movie, no matter what he's in, right? You when you see him in Princess Bride, right? You believe he's a kidnapper, right?
Nice.
Who's done all these things and has this wacky personality.
The Battle of Wits is, in my opinion, top 5 greatest movie scenes of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch just that scene over and over. So
I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I agree to that extent, but I do agree that it's a really great one, and one that you could point to as, like, witty exchange as a idea, right?
Yes.
Like, here, use this as an example in your cinematography class, right? Of what witty banter with a really good setup and an excellent punchline would be, right?
Also, is it just me? On this movie poster, Andre Gregory kind of looks like Alan Alda.
Yeah, I've been thinking that this entire time too, since I was forced to go remember this movie. I'm like, that's uncanny. It's just uncanny.
Yeah.
Well, let's get a little bit more about this movie. It was released on October 11th, 1981. Had a budget of about $500,000 and made about $5 million in the box office, which actually is not too bad of a return on a $500,000 budget.
Hey, making back 10 times what you put in. That's success to me.
Yes, that is 10 times. I don't know why I thought it was like 100 times. My brain's bad. It was received really well. Has a critic rating, Rotten Tomatoes rating of 92%, based on only 25 reviews. Though we can definitely go change that, guys. Cat, you know what you have to do. With an average score of about 7.8 on Metacritic, it has a score of 83 out of 100 based on 15 reviews, indicating quote-unquote universal acclaim. It is a smaller movie, a little bit more cerebral in its approach, as you're gonna see. And it definitely has a vibe that I personally think you're gonna love. It's sort of based on real life conversations that Andre had and has had. And it plays out. It's good. It's good. I can't say anymore without ruining everything. It's good. It's 111 minutes of good.
I'm looking forward to it.
With that in mind, Twig, why haven't you seen that movie?
Well, it's 4 years older than I am, so would have been really hard to see it in theaters.
Fair.
And it's one of those movies that I just kind of had like heard about, but like nobody that I knew up until now was like a fan of it and said, "Oh, you got to see it." Like it's never been recommended to me up until this show, but it's one of those movies that I just only kind of vaguely knew about. It's really not one that like people think of as, "Oh, this is a classic movie you gotta see." I mean, some people might think that, but I don't. It's just like I just never really was big in the zeitgeist where I was around, and so I never really sought it out. And it was never like, "Hey, let's watch a movie tonight." Cool. You want to watch My Dinner with Andre? Yeah, it's a conversation never happened with me.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, to be fair, I also forgot this movie existed in its entirety. I watched it once in high school as part of a theater project, and that was it.
I mean, I do know that in The Simpsons, Martin Prince is playing the video game adaptation.
Yes, it is it shows up in a lot of, like, it's one of those movies that everyone knows, everyone loves, and makes fun of, or adds in to some point. Like, it's in Family Guy, it's in Rick and Morty. If you see More Dinner with Rick, more Dinner Rick Andre, it's the whole episode's a reference to this movie. The opening scene of Nirvana the Band Show has a has a reference to one of the characters in this movie. It's I think it's referenced in Frasier even, now that I think about it. It's just one of those, like, it has its roots in being like, I'm trying to think of a movie that's comparable.
It's a movie for people who like John Hodgman.
I mean, it's a movie for people who like movies, for sure. It's like Breakfast Club, or like Dead Poet Society, where maybe not a lot of people have seen it, but a lot of people reference it, or the Akira side. Let me put it this way: the Akira side and its effect on anime, right? This is one of those movies that has had an effect on a lot of different writers and cinematographers over the course of the last 40, 50 years.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Mm-hmm. With that in mind, and your excuse given, what are your predictions for this film?
Oh boy. Okay, so the first prediction I wanted to make was, who are these two to each other? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are they strangers who happen to sit down and spark a conversation? Or are they related in some way? But I am going to predict two characters are old friends who haven't seen each other in years. That's my guess.
Okay. All right. Good premise.
All right. The next set of predictions I can have is, like, say, they're going to have a conversation. So I don't think it's going to be a movie that's really going to have, like, you know, a plot where you have your standard 3-act structure. I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be like a conversation. The conversations are going to flow without too much, like, action type stuff happening. And by action, I don't necessarily mean, like, you know, violent action, but, you know, I mean, like, physical actions and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So the best thing I can do is trying to predict the topics of conversation that they're going to have.
Okay. That's fair. That's valid.
So I'm going to predict that one of them is divorced, and they talk about that.
Okay.
So that's a prediction.
Recent divorce is always a heavy topic.
I'm going to predict that one of them has been successful in business and advises the other on financial success. You know? Like...
Yeah, like, you know, here, you should invest in these guys.
Yeah, something like that, you know? Where it's just like... Feels like business and economics would start talking up. I think that... Okay, so this is 1981. So I think there will be discussion about Reagan and supply side economics.
Hell yeah, Reaganomics, let's go.
Okay. Whoa, come on. Why are you not giving me... Well, there we go. I'm going to predict that both of them smoke at some point in the movie.
Okay.
Not really a topic of discussion, but what else can I do?
You're grasping for ideas here.
I'm going to say they are repeatedly interrupted by a server.
Sir, do you want to order? No, fuck off!
I think that's... But, come on. Don't do that. Come on. I wanted to make these just a little bit bigger. Because that's 6 right there.
Yeah, that's 6.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
okay, fine.
I'm not gonna
24 's
lie.
fine.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Twig. This definitely feels like you are predicting out your ass a little bit, and that's fine. That is kind of the premise of the show. But man, there's some straws.
Look, how... It's a movie about two dudes having a conversation. What the fuck am I supposed to do for a prediction about it?
I don't know. That's why I'm not faulting you too much. Here, like, there's only so much you can say and do, right?
Like,
And predict.
what... You hear a premise. This is a movie about two guys sitting down and having a conversation with each other. Make your predictions. I'd like to see you do better.
They're going to talk about Anchorman. They're going to talk about recent movie stars. They're going to talk about recent babes they've seen. They're going to talk about politics, sports, if they're into it. And then probably some kind of form of entertainment, what's on the television.
Okay.
From my script that I grew up learning, having autism and having to mask around my family, those are the topics that were okay to talk about. What you weren't allowed to talk about was politics.
Yeah. People are like, why do you like sports ball, Twig? Why do you care so much about the Super Bowl? Because it's literally one of the only things I can have a real conversation with my father about without us getting angry at each other. So,
Oof.
yeah.
I mean, that's whatever you have to bond with your parents, right?
Yeah. But also, Eagles won the
mine's-
Super Bowl! Woo, Eagles! Yeah!
Oh, right, that Super Bowl was on Sunday. I completely forgot, I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, look.
Who
All I
do they-
say is that,
who
like,
do they
hey,
play?
if you're a nerdy type and you don't like it when jock people make fun of your interests, then don't do the same thing and make fun of people who like sports. You know? Unless they're like the type of person who takes it way too seriously and diverts 90% of a school's budget to their sports. There's problems around sports, but nothing wrong with sports. Sports are games. We like games.
Yeah, game. It's just a different game, and you're not a fan of it. That's all it is. It's just a different kind of game.
Yeah.
Humans are gaming creatures. We love games. Just like us birds.
But anyway, we should watch this movie.
We should.
So
guys, we're going to go watch the movie, and when we come back, we'll have watched Dinner with Andre.
Yay! And we're live.
Hello, everyone. And we're back. We watched the movie. Just like that, finger snap. We have digested all of it. All 2 hours of it.
Hour 45 minutes.
It was 2 hours.
Was it 2 hours? I thought it was 140.
It's 2 hours.
1 hour 44. Whatever.
It
was 2 very fast hours for a movie.
It was very fast. It's a very fast movie.
Yeah, it's like it's engaging. Listen.
Well, we're just gonna get right into it, folks. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, before we do that,
it was so good.
This distinguished crow horse person, it's Rei the Crowtaur.
Absolutely.
That was me.
It's you.
Hi.
This is your second movie on the show.
Combos from Subway. That's funny.
You get to join the very select club of people who've been back for a second time.
Yeah.
I think there's only 2 or 3 people that have been in it.
Yeah, the Two-Timers Club. Wait,
Two-Timers.
Maybe that's not the best name, but
yeah, no, we gotta figure something out.
Yeah,
it's my third time actually.
So let's do this because I believe all 3 of us are going to have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna ask you the question that we normally ask at the end of the movie, at the end of the show, minus Twig's predictions. Why did you choose this movie, Ray? What does this movie mean to you?
Oh boy. Well, it means to me a whole lot. Mostly as an artist myself. The first time I caught wind of it was I saw like one of those quotable things from the movie on YouTube, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. What is this about? And then I ended up watching the movie because I like strange things where people just mostly just talk at each other. Super interesting. And then I kept watching it again and again at other points in my life, and it felt like the meanings of the movie would have a different impact on me depending on where I was with my life at that point. And I came up with this trilogy, this unofficial trilogy, which is called the Hopeless Artist Dreams. And it's this movie, it's Crumb, and it's American Splendor. Because they're all about, guys at the end of the rope, or at weird parts of their life, all being creative, trying to create, but sort of struggling with the world around them at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
And yeah, I just heavily identified with it. And then, now having watched it again yesterday, I have an even new look on it.
Appreciation for it.
And definitely an appreciation for it.
I can say I watched this movie first in college. It was high school. It was that year that I went from high school to college. I can't remember when I watched it, but I remember watching it as part of a theater project because we were trying to get the vibe of a conversational piece that we were trying to work through and rehearse and stuff like that. And so we were forced to watch this movie, and I was like, well, this movie's kind of boring to start with, and then like as it evolves, like this just is how like my friends and I start talking, and I like by the end of it I was like, okay, there's some definitely weird thought patterns here, and this guy's definitely crazy.
Yeah.
And like you, the second time I watched it, right, it was last night, and very different meaning to me now, very different appreciation for what they're saying, especially since I identify more with the characters now than I did in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of jealous of you in a way that you've gotten to watch it multiple times at different stages of your life and get something new from it.
For sure. At one point I was a different gender, and there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start with that.
Well, let's let Twig choose where we start, because this is
right.
This is his show here. We gotta drill you, Twig.
Well, I mean, I thought this was very interesting because this is a movie that had me going back and forth a lot, where it's just like, wow, Andre is so right. And then 10 minutes later, wow, Andre is so wrong. And then he's right again. And then he's wrong. And it's just like, he had so much of his analysis of the world and the way people go through the world is correct, but a lot of his ways of going about things are not practical or pragmatic and can only be done if you're in a position of privilege and have enormous amounts of wealth. And it's not like, you know, it's just like, yeah, we are disconnected. We are like stuck with, you know, being stuck. You know, he was talking about like reading newspapers and watching TV and listening to radio, but I feel like you could do the exact same things he's saying and just replace that with smartphones and the internet, and it's exactly as relevant now. And it's like, and it's just like, yeah, we aren't living life how we're supposed to be, and we aren't able to just live in the moment. But at the same time, we can't just give up, because we have to have shelter, we have to have food, and unfortunately we have to work within the bounds of modern society in order to just survive. And you know, there's that thing, it's just like, are we surviving, are we just living, and how do we do both? And I feel like that's kind of the main thesis of the movie, is how do you both survive but also live?
Yeah.
Which is kind of something that they got to an interview with a vampire. But it's just like, yeah, you have to live in a way that's...
I also like to look at this... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I also view this movie in the way of like a portrait of... are you familiar with the book A Portrait of a Artist as a Young Man? I think it's what it says.
I'm familiar with it, but I've never read it.
So it's like this. It's a cerebral self-biography about this artist. I can't remember the name, but it's like, it's kind of a reflection too of every man, right? Because we have the spectrum represented in both Wally and in Andre, right? We have rich man and finds self, right? And then we have poor man finds self, and they're talking and they're conversing and sharing their worldviews with each other. And I think that middle ground that erupts between the two of them in these conversations, right, where you get Andre's really weird alien jibble jabble for a little bit, but then you get Wally's like, yeah, but how's that any different from the homeless man on the street, right? Experiencing similar things. I think the mirror comes in between those conversation pieces where they're like meeting in the middle, and you go and it makes you go and reflect like, huh, you know, that's what a lot of this movie felt like. Was like, it was supposed to be a cerebral experience and somewhat based on reality for them, but then at the same time you're like, well, there's definitely parts of this that are complete bullshit. You know? Yeah,
like, you're absolutely right. There's a big disconnect between them, and then they find a common middle ground, and some of it is in the discourse between Wally and Henry, because Wally does, you know, he calls Andre out on this BS several times, because Andre is this depressed man who, you know, lost the meaning of his art. He doesn't know what to do. The reality of everything around him is too much for him to handle. So he responds by going out into the woods with a bunch of people he doesn't know, and does some kind of emergent theater where they just sing and dance and do whatever just to escape the sort of pressing burden he's under. And Wally then asks, like, why isn't just having your girlfriend in a nice small home with some nice food that you just made yourself, why isn't that enough? Why can't that be enough for anyone just to, like, you know, feel a little bit of happiness in your life, like just the simple things, you know? And Andre is kind of like, he's a successful man, he's obviously a rich man, he's a privileged man, and maybe he never calls himself out on that, which I now realize. He always blames larger structures, like the larger society, for all of his ills, and in order to escape them, he's going to Nepal. And you're like, well, do you have to do that? And I want to mention that the set design is really interesting with the mirror that's behind him.
Yes, I was noticing that.
Yes, and you could see Andre's face twice in that mirror and in the shot. And I think that's Wally trying to help Andre reflect on himself there. And it's like Andre is very much an emotional person. Like, he gets scared when you retell some of his stories. And when Wally calls him out, he gets provoked. He almost gets angry. It feels like he's going to attack Wally with his words, or attack the world with his words, because he doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, it's like he was going into the conversation like, I'm ready, I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to suffer through this dinner. And at the beginning, you're kind of getting that. He's just like, I'm just going to let him talk. Because, like, you notice that, like, the first half of the movie, the only things that Wallace Shawn really saw or says is questions. And that's how they established it early in the movie, that he's just like, oh, what I like to do is just ask questions and let them talk and let them do it out. But then in the second half, he starts responding and telling his own stories and really going more into like he has spent the time analyzing what Andre is saying, but then he's going and making his counter arguments. And I don't know, I just thought that was interesting how it's just like how much more Wallace talked in the second half than the first half. And telling his own stories. And, like there's a thing where he's talking about like, you can have the same kind of experience and learn just as much going to the cigar store next door as you can going to Nepal. And do you need to have these big exotic adventures to other cultures when how much are you missing out on what's around you? Like all of us, we could go out on an adventure and see things we've never seen and meet people we've never met and experience things we've never experienced right in our own backyard.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the disconnect too, right? With Andre has a lot of, like, as Ray said, he's an emotional creature, right? Yeah. He lives and suffers by his emotions, but on top of that, there's like this underlying notion that he's also suffering from other mental health issues as well. The hallucinations that he refers to at the beginning of the movie. There's that scene where he's talking about having gone to that church, and he's like, well, there was this man that I kept seeing, and I couldn't make him go away. No matter what I tried, right? So clearly there's other things going on too mentally with him. And to go back to your comment about Wallace talking more in the second half than the first half, I think it's because Wallace is so, like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, assaulted? In a way, by how much Andre just pours forth. Andre starts talking at the beginning and just keeps talking and keeps talking. And there's some times where Wallace is like, oh, I could jump in here. And then Andre kind of bowls him over, right? Bowls him over and continues talking. And then eventually Wallace gets into like, I don't think that's the case. And then he starts talking in reflection to everything Andre just said. And it starts balancing itself out. Dialogue-wise, where they finally start talking to each other and not at each other. Right?
Yeah, because so much of what Andre is saying in the beginning of the movie, he's a very good storyteller. He's got his way of speaking, his way of setting up, the mental image of what's going on. And she speaks with such great authority about what he's saying that you have kind of the feeling of like, oh, this is some deep wisdom. We're hearing these wise words. He's telling the story. And then you kind of do what Wally does, and you're like, oh, is this actually true? Is there actual wisdom in here? Or is it just fluffy words that sound true and sound deep, but are actually leading you down a path of falsehood? And I thought that was interesting because it's just like you get that weirdness.
Yeah, you can definitely see that in Wally's reactions. Like, there are intentional shots where you can see Wally reacting to what Andre said. And Andre is something like, The Little Prince? That's such a fascistic book. And Wally's like X'd out press X to doubt, you know?
You can see it in his face. He's like, "The fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, and
I mean,
sure.
anyone who's read Little Prince, you would, and you heard it's such a fascistic piece. You're like, "The fuck you, bruh, what?
Yeah.
The fuck?" The
and-
one time the Germans make a story that's not about children losing their thumbs, and you're like, fascists.
It's a French person.
Oh, sorry, French.
But
Yeah,
I thought it was a German writer. My bad.
No,
it's one of those
Germans,
things. It's
didn't
like
deserve that.
Andre brings up World War II a lot.
he does, and it's kind of uncomfortable whenever he does it.
Yeah.
It's sort of left field.
Yeah, because several times when he brings it up, it's like, well, that's not an appropriate or even accurate, comparison here.
And I think it's kind of it's to show how far he's gone in his own mental. His mentals are so bad. He can only think of the worst case scenario, which is Nazis and what the Nazis did and how that came about. And to him, it must have been a style of living and the arts and sciences and everything that humans do that sort of led to this worst case scenario for him. And it makes him more afraid. I think he's just spiraling, right? Like, he broke down crying in the streets because of an Inga Bergman quote about, losing faith in your art or something like that, It's look, that's a bit of an overreaction. Even though it hits close, it's still like, bro, get a therapist. Wally can't be your therapist, Like, I think maybe that's why he wanted to get together. Like, he needs some kind of grounded soul to talk to, because all the people he's familiar with are all these big shot theater guys,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And
that's kind of that. I mean, that's very much true. I mean, it's hinted at throughout everyone he talks to. Is like he just goes to people and talks to them, and like
yeah.
And there's like a few cases where he listens to someone else talking, but the most part he's talking to other people or telling them stuff. And you kind of get the idea that he's just a chatterbox who doesn't know when to stop talking.
Yeah.
With the
Do I know
with
anyone
the,
like that? Yeah. I'm just kidding.
And then
Not like that.
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
rope. And eventually he finally learns how to shut up long enough to start thinking, and and then I started meditating, and then I started getting scared, right? Like just confirming that if he feels like if he stops moving, things will stop for him too, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't know where to move to. He's at this point of his life as an artist where he's done everything, he's gotten all the accolades, but what's the next step? What does his art mean anymore, especially in the face of people no longer, in his mind, caring, in his mind, wanting to put the effort into exposing themselves to challenging topics. It's also something that Wally calls him out to, like, can't there be like some kind of piece of art that like does both, that like entertains and make people think, like, or that comforts people? Like, he doesn't want people to be comforted by things because that would put them asleep and no longer aware of their own life in a way that, I don't know, it's how hard to express, because he thinks that people hurt themselves by being too comfortable. There's this the comparison with having an electrical blanket, because then you don't feel like you're cold anymore, and then you don't know the pleasure of hugging up to someone in bed. And I mean, yeah, I get it. I live in a cold place and I have to hug up to my warm wife at night. I get it, but also I'd like to be warm. I don't want to be cold.
Yeah,
I got a rally stand.
Yeah, I really disagree with his own metaphor there, because when you think about it, it's just like, okay, yes, if you have that electric blanket, you're cold, and that lets you think about your partner being cold, and lets you think about other people being cold, and how it's just like, basically what he's saying is that you have to suffer equally in order to feel empathy. And I don't think that's true. I think you can empathize with people without having to experience the same things that they've gone through. I can put myself in other people's shoes without necessarily having gone through the same things they've been with. And then at the same time, if your mind is so stressed and you're never having time for comfort, then like comfort and security are necessary in order to be able to live your life in a way that is productive and to be able to feel creative and to be able to feel all these sorts of things. You need to have security and comfort before you can, it's kind of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
You can't have good relationships and you can't have self-actualization if you don't have your needs of security and comfort met first. You're struggling on what your physiological and psychological needs are, and how are you supposed to grow and learn as a person if you're just trying to survive all the time and you're not giving yourself time to feel comfortable and feel safe? And
yeah, I think Andre misses those things because he's absolutely privileged, and compared to Wallace, he's got all the things that make him comfortable right away. So he's, I think, trying to divest himself of these by becoming an ascetic, going to Nepal to live in a yurt with some other people he doesn't know. I don't know.
I'm gonna modify what you said. He's trying to become ascetic, but failing miserably at it the entire time.
Yes.
Because obviously, how ascetic can you be when you're having dinner at a fancy restaurant?
Exactly.
Your friend who you invited too stressed out about paying for dinner beforehand.
It's so funny, and like Wallace is like, he's just like me for real. He's just like, yeah, I'm not getting the work I need, but I'm still busy. You gotta do all of this, busy work you have to do as an artist. And then he goes into the fancy restaurant to meet with a guy he doesn't really like.
Well, and one thing that I think is interesting is compare these two men to their spouses. Like, Wally clearly very much loves Debbie, and he cares about her, and he wants to spend more time with her, and he laments that his money troubles are preventing them from spending time together because she's having to work, a second job just so they can afford to keep a roof over their heads.
Yeah.
Whereas Andre is always talking about needing to have a deeper connection and needing to have better relationships with people, yet he's the one completely neglecting his family, going off on these trips, and he's got the money and privilege to spend all the time he wants with his family, but he's choosing not to. He's neglecting what should matter the most while complaining about not having true connections with people. It's just like, well, you talk about, there's that whole scene where he talks about he went there and everyone says, you look great, but only one woman truly saw him for who he was. Well, it's just like, why are you not seeing your wife and children as who they are? Why are you not nurturing that relationship? It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a bit of a hypocrite, yeah.
He's a bit of a hypocrite. He's a lot of bit self-absorbed, right?
Oh.
And then has a lot of ego and ego death, and then regaining that ego in a very different way. He's the epitome of like trust fund kid, right?
Yeah.
They grow up thinking the world's one way, then they go to one music festival, like, well, I'm gonna go travel the world and awaken my third eye, because like he talks about going to India twice. What trust fund kid hasn't gone to India twice to find their selves, right? And he's like, he's talking about, he's like, the first time I went to India, I felt like more of a tourist than a guru by the end of it. I'm like, well, yes, because you're a white man and a tourist, so hand in hand there, bud.
Yeah, it's like he's one of those people who wants to like get into, spirituality of different cultures, but without actually understanding what they're He doesn't he wants to be a part of it, but he doesn't understand it, and he doesn't seem to make the effort to properly understand it. And he has his own experiences, but those are his experiences. Yeah, exactly. He's just a spiritual tourist. And
he wants to be a sage, but all he really is a lost lamb. You know, he wants to be the wise elder of the tribe that he's in, or the tribes that he's in, and really all he is just a normal kid who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
And it's like, if you have a lot of wealth, you can go on all these spiritual retreats and have all these experiences. But at the end of the day, these experiences don't mean anything when you can just go back home to your wealth. You know, it's just like, you can be a rich person and go on a 2-week retreat where you have no luxuries and no amenities. But in the back of your mind, you can always just leave and go back to your life. So you're not getting the experiences of these people because these people don't have the ability to go back to a luxurious life. This is their life. And
oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that having the knowledge and the background that you can always go back makes it an infinitely different experience. It's like, okay, you could do like the scared straight thing and see what it's like to be in a prison, but in the back of your mind, you always know that this is just a temporary thing that I'm experiencing. I'm going to go back home when this is over. Whereas if you're an actual prisoner and you can't leave, then the experience that you have in it is completely different. And so he's having these experiences, but he's not experiencing them as in a genuine way because he can always leave and go back. So it ends up being meaningless and not giving you a true experience.
And even further than that is that he has a corrupting effect too on these people that he interacts with too. He brings back that Tibetan monk, and he even jokes about how like in just a short amount of time he's wearing Gucci and
eating beef.
Rolex and eating beef. Like you're not a good guy, dude. You're not actually learning anything here. You're ruining other people's lives, actually. In fact.
Well, it's like, I don't know, going from a personal experience when I grew up in a religious household. And we went on mission trips. I went on a few mission trips. And the whole thing is just like, here's a bunch of teenage Christians going to these poor communities, and we would help fix up their houses. And the thing is, before all those trips, we had to raise thousands of dollars in order to go. It cost us thousands of dollars to go each, because you had plane tickets, accommodations, supplies and all that, So each of us were having to raise thousands of dollars each to go. And then like 50 of us went. So it's just like, if we're each raising $2,000 and there's 50 of us, that's $100,000 that we raised total. And then we've got unskilled teenagers going into neighborhoods, and we're fixing up their houses, but we're also spreading the word of Jesus. And in the end, wouldn't those communities have been better served if that $100,000 was spent on hiring local laborers who lived in the area and paying them directly to do professional work and fix up these houses?
But you're thinking too much about it. Where's the spiritual gratification?
But it's just like, we had to go spread Jesus when the money that we raised and spent to go on this trip would have done so much more for the community and gone so much further and done so much more work, and work done better because it's by, actual professionals. But no, we just had this surface thing, and we felt so good afterwards, and we feel like we did such great, but when really it's just like we weren't going for the communities. We were going for us. And we felt good afterwards when really what we were doing was just an inefficient way. And most of the houses that we were helping, they were already Christian people anyway. So it's like, were we really spreading the word of God? Well, we were spreading it to people who already had heard it. And the entire exercise ended up being an entire waste. And so like teenage mission trips kind of feel like the same thing that Andre does, where he goes somewhere and he's trying to do good and he's trying to feel self-righteous, but in the end, his money could be used to do so much better. and actually help the communities help themselves and bring them up. And, you know, I don't know. Does that make sense? Does that feel like a good comparison?
Yeah.
No, that's a guy. That's exactly what it feels like when he's talking.
Okay, now you're bringing up communities, and there was a part in the movie that I really liked. It was Andre saying that with everything, with how oppressive reality is, with how bad things are going, then and now, especially now, there's a theory that if you can't escape it all, and no one can, it's important that we build our own little sort of islands, you know, like our rest stops, our own little safe zones where we go to, we recharge, and we go back into the world. And it was so, it struck with me because that reminded me of our own communities, of our own small spaces we are actively building, like be it in the furry community or the VTubing community, you know, and other communities. Like, this is a solution. And I think if we focus on that, and if we make the lives better of the people around us, with or without money, you know, then we can make an impact, you know, and then we can help other people, not just ourselves. And like Andre brings up these points, and they're good points, but yeah, he kind of misses the larger picture of just, yeah, it's still just us here, and we can't quite do what you do, and no one can. So we do our best here and now with the people around us.
And I know, like, what you're saying was coming from a point of criticism from Andre, right, about the current world. But I think it's actually quite a positive thing. Okay, goodbye, bear. No claws. Sorry, my cat was on my lap. And he just clawed shit out of my leg.
Oh, I thought you just squeezed a poop out. You know, birds do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I do on this show. I shit during the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
It's birds. Toilet. The universe is the toilet. Same forces.
No, is that he's criticizing just how empty the world is becoming, and how instead of trying to fix the world in its broken state, we're just gonna form islands instead. And I think this is maybe more a little bit outside of and meta of the movie, but like everybody's heard about the bird. Humanity's always been a tribal species. We've always built islands. Oh,
thanks for the single person raid. Appreciate it.
Hello, Barfu.
Thank you for the raid.
Come in.
But anyway, please finish your thought about the islands.
So like I don't know. In his criticism, he ends up stating what's inevitable to happen to humanity, especially after, you know, a collapse of an empire, is that people turn to their groups, their centers, their islands, as Rei and you know, Andre say, to recharge from the world that's going on around them, because the world around them's horrible. But like, that's just how it's always been. Rural towns are that. I mean, if you look at medieval towns, they're like 3 or 4 huts, and it's mostly your family. Like
3 or 4 huts and a Dollar General.
Mm-hmm. Basically, it same as it ever was. You know, we're talking heads here. We're talking heads here. You know, once in a lifetime, but it's same as it ever was the entire time.
This is not my beautiful house.
This is not my beautiful wife.
My God, how did I get here?
But
I mean, there is
kept playing in my head this entire movie.
I mean,
was the
thing is like, a lot of us, you know, the 3 of us feel like we've been definitely more critical of Andre than definitely of Wally on this. And, you know, our criticisms are correct. But the thing is, there are so many things that Andre says that do have a lot of wisdom. And, you know, one of the things that he was talking about, how, you know, I've already mentioned this earlier, but the thing is, like, he would go a place and everyone says, like, oh, you look so great. You look great. You look great. But then one person said, you look terrible. And I do think that there is a lot of wisdom in what he was talking about in that scene, is how in our daily interactions with people, we do tend to just see surface things, and we prefer pleasantries over anything comfortable. And
uncomfortable.
Kind of like, Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But like, you think about it, like when you first run into somebody, whenever you see somebody 90% of the time, the first thing he says is, "Hey, how you doing?" You ask them how they're doing, but you're not allowed to answer that question honestly unless you're actually doing great. But like, it feels like, the last few months, people are like, "Hey, Twig, how you doing?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm fine, doing all right, doing great." And then, but like, deep inside, I'm not doing great. I, can be a little vulnerable here. Things have been terrible. I'm stressed out. I've been having so much stress lately, I've literally been breaking out in hives and rashes. Because the things that are happening in the world have caused such stress with me. And, like, I'm worried about my relationships with my friends and my family, especially my family. And it's just, but like, somebody says, "How you doing?" I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to tell my coworker, "Hey, things are terrible. I'm awful. I feel like I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown." I can't say that in polite conversation. And people see me and they ask me, and I give the socially acceptable response of, "Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm good." But like, and they just take that at face value. They don't look and see. And the thing is, I'm on the opposite side of that. I'm guilty of saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And they say good. And it's just like, but is the person that I'm talking to actually doing good? Are we actually okay? But do we, we're coworkers. Do we want to sit and have a conversation about the state of the world? No, that's not an appropriate place for us. So it's just like, we're forced, it's a big thing with autism. They talk about masking, but I feel like masking is something that everybody does, whether they're on the spectrum or not. We are always masking and hiding our true feelings and our true selves. And that's the thing that Andre talks about. It's like everybody hides their true self. They hide their true feelings. And that's a problem. And he's absolutely right about that. But the question is, how do we solve that while maintaining the social niceties that we're supposed to have? How do we keep society going and keep functioning while also being completely honest all the time? And it's just like, at some point you have to realize that, we're all just lying to each other all the time, and that's okay? I don't know. I don't know what the point I'm trying to reach here is. I'm just talking and expressing my feelings about how it's a thing that Andre talked about, and how about we're all not doing okay, but we can't say that we're not doing okay. And I don't know.
I know what you're saying. And counter to that, the way you fix it is you just throw off the expectation. When people ask me that, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm alive." And I say it in a tone that says, or indicates, "I'm not doing well." And people go, "Oh," and then they walk away. And you just do that enough, and then eventually someone's gonna have the balls to go back, "Yeah, I'm not doing great either, but we're gonna get through today." And it's a slow change. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that humanity is slow to change. Humanity has always been slow to change. Sudden change doesn't stick well. Let's point to the French Revolution. They had to do it twice for it to actually stick.
It was so
But
nice.
now it feels like,
twice.
and now it feels like over the last 30 years, technology is forcing us to change faster than we want to, but also forcing change upon us in a negative way, but also a positive way. Like, without modern technology, I wouldn't be friends with either of you.
Yeah, that's very true.
But
Yeah.
it's also modern technology that is driving a lot of the worst aspects of this world. Those tech billionaires are not doing good.
No, we can say it. Elon's a shithead, has billions of dollars, and is profiting off of the technology that we are saying is also positive for us too. And I mean, that's the beautiful horror of humanity, right? Is that we are equal parts able to create things that are both great and bad, dual-edged swords. That's what humanity is really good at making for technology. We made the nuclear missile, great deterrent for war. By the way, we'll just kill everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, technology connects you with people from far away. However, also connects you with people from far away. And if you're not willing to adjust your worldview, it's going to have a lot of negative consequences for you and the other person. But if you are open, it's a great tool for widening your gaze and seeing the world and seeing things and hearing things, trying things you never would have tried without it. Right?
Yeah. But you also have to be willing because, there's a lot of online communities that are completely insular. And you don't...
Absolutely. They're islands.
Yeah. And you can't let your online experience be islands. It's like, for me, I am straight, I am white, I am male. But thanks to the internet, I know a ton of people who are not white, not straight, not cis. And I feel like those have become the most rewarding relationships I've ever had. It's just like xenophobia, I feel like, is one of the worst things you can feel for your own experience. Being xenophobic is harmful to yourself and others. I mean, obviously harmful to others, but like I think when you're xenophobic, you hurt yourself because you're missing out on experience and you're missing out on knowledge. Like before I started VTubing, I maybe knew like one trans person, and now I could probably name, friends and acquaintances at least a dozen. And
Hell yeah.
it's awesome because trans people fucking kick ass. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gassed. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh!
But you know what I mean? It's just like, how could I? But the thing is, you have to like go into these with like an open mind and learn from the experience. But you actually have to see people as who they are, and you have to shut up and listen sometimes. And I think that's Andre's problem in this movie, is that he wants to go out and have these conversations, and he wants to go out and meet all these people, but then when he does, he's the one talking. He never shuts up and listens, and so he doesn't actually learn from them.
Yeah, and even when he spends time with people from other cultures, he doesn't speak the languages. He doesn't really interact with the cultures in a meaningful way. He's just there. He's a tourist, as he says. Like, how is he supposed to learn anything new? How is he going to change his own world view if he doesn't speak to people outside of that view?
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so like in January 2020, 2 months before everything happened, my grandparents on my mother's side passed away and left a good amount of money to my mother, and my mom decided to use that money to treat me and my sister and her family to a trip to Hawaii. And it was gorgeous. It was wonderful. I had a great time.
Nice.
But one of the days we went to a luau. And even then I knew this isn't a luau. We went to a resort, and there was nice tables. There was a nice big bar where you could go and get drinks, and there was like a buffet line with the food. And then it's like, honestly, the whole thing kind of felt like a wedding reception. Everybody had their table, and then up front there was the luau presentation where they had people dancing and singing songs and talking about, like, Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian history. But the whole thing felt so like, this isn't a luau. This is a, like, manufactured presentation of a luau. And the whole thing felt so completely surface level and empty, where it's just like, no, wouldn't a real luau be us going to some random beach and just like hanging out, and the entire thing is unstructured and just, it wasn't a luau. It didn't feel like a real luau, and I could tell that true. But they called it one, and we were like, it was one of the things. It's just like you go to Hawaii as a tourist and you sign up for a thing. It's like, this is a luau. And then you go there and it's a completely watered down touristy experience that has nothing to do and nothing like a real, actual Hawaiian luau. And
Because they're selling you a product.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were sold a product. It was like the Disneyland of a luau, and I could tell even then it's just like this isn't real. This isn't authentic, and it was still an enjoyable time. The food was great, the drinks were great, the dancing and the music were great, but it wasn't a genuine experience of a luau.
It's only based on the expectations of what people might have of those places. Because they've never been there before. They don't know what it's actually like. They only know what they've been told, by media, by travel agencies. And then they build these expectations and then they sell these expectations back to you because, God forbid, you experience something that doesn't match those expectations. You experience the real world for once. And I'd probably take some dingy backstreet of a random town, some other country over whatever nice beach they offer me, because then, sure, it's a nice beach, but you don't learn anything. You come back with the same ideas. You might have a tan, but like, where you haven't actually expanded your own headspace. And that's what art is supposed to do for people. And I think why this movie is so important to me, because I try to give people... I'm not a radical artist, I do my own stuff, but I do want to give people emotions. I want to help them feel better about the world, I want to maybe not challenge them, but for example, with my tarots, I want to have a different approach to what they, might expect from what they used to think the tarot is like. And the tarot is a thing that has a different meaning depending on who reads it or who interprets the cards. And there's the cool thing about it is there's so many different decks that each tell their own stories, and I want to tell my own story with that and impart my ideas onto the people that might read it or might even interpret it in a completely different way. And art bridges this gap in human communication, where this is stupid, but in the Simpsons gag, the one thing that Andre says is like, "Oh, we express the inexpressible, we name the unnameable." And it's so true though. Like the Simpsons writers were good. Tell me more.
Old Simpsons made smart Futurama was smart jokes for stupid people. Simpsons was stupid jokes for smart people.
Yes.
Right, and then they catch that gist of the entire movie in a dumb gag, and I love it.
I know. It's the fact that the gag is also a video game is also fucking hilarious.
What if they turned this movie into a video game?
But part of what you were saying there, Ray, was like, it just goes to show how fucking offensive AI art is.
Yeah.
Because you could put, and even, let's say, 5 years from now, when it's gotten actually better at creating things, you could put an AI prompt in to make it create a tarot deck, and you might get something out of it that is, like, technically pretty, but, like, it's never, ever going to have the artistic interpretation and impression and thought that what you're doing does. It may look pretty, but it will never be art.
It's soulless. It's absolutely soulless because it's an amalgam of all the other things that people have made before, tossed into a blender, and the exact composite of the average spits it out. That's why when you're looking for animated movies, it gives you like a Pixar style, right? And then it kind of like stuff you've seen before, but not quite, and it's so eerie, and there's just nothing behind... Literally nothing behind its ears, it's just a homunculus, a lifeless homunculus.
Mm-hmm.
He does look very good for 90. Yeah.
I don't think it was 90 when this movie came out.
But he's 90 now, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I looked up a picture and yeah. he still seems to be doing pretty good. I'm glad that Wallace Shawn is still around and still doing stuff.
Ugh. I love him as the Grand Nagus in Deep Space Nine. Whenever he has an episode, it's so good.
Yes. I mean, they couldn't have gotten anybody better for that role.
No. And especially in that show, little side tangent, he espouses, liberal views, like progressive views even. That's the whole point of each of his episodes, like him introducing a progressive idea and everyone else being like, no, you can't do that. I'm gonna do it anyway because of my wife.
I love his relationship with Quark and Rom's mom.
It's so good.
What, Mookie is her name?
Yes, Moogie.
Yeah, she is
it's like their
great character. Gotta love DS9.
Watch DS9.
Well, I feel
All
like
right.
we need to move on.
We could end up talking for hours, guys.
We could.
And
We
accidentally
really could.
recreate my dinner with Corvus Twig. But let's move on. Twig, let's pull up your prediction. Let's go over your predictions list.
Okay. Well, I started with an easy one, and I got it right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a gimme.
We can put the green highlighter away.
Green
One of them is
highlighter.
divorced.
Sir, put your green highlighter on the ground.
No. Okay, one of them is successful in business and advises the other on financial success. The first half of that is kind of right. The second half of that is... I would not say so. I mean, what do you think?
Nah, I think this is a red because this is all about. This feels like it's like, oh, you come into a lot of money. Well, here's what you should do with it.
Yep.
Yeah, like one of them is more successful, but not quite or just in business. I want to say.
The thing is, he's more successful in business, but he never gives business advice. He's never saying, "Hey, Wally, here's how you can make more money." He's saying, "Hey, Wally, your money means nothing, and you don't need money. You need to have these experiences." And yeah,
invest in Apple stocks.
You don't need
now.
money. Invest in Apple stocks. My God, if I could.
1981, put $100. If in 1981 you put $100 into Apple, how much would that $100 be now?
Oh my gosh, a lot of money.
It'd be a lot. Anyway, they do not discuss Reagan and supply side economics, thankfully. I'm glad they never went down that route. Neither of them smoke at all in this movie. Like,
the waiter smokes once at the end.
yeah, but they're not talking about the waiter. And then repeatedly interrupted by a server, kind of, but not like...
Not like
Not in a
the
rude
server
way.
was so fucking awkward the entire time. Like,
Yeah.
You're, like at some point it felt like he was like accusing them of scaring off other customers.
Like,
I don't know, do I get a yellow on this one?
I would give you a green because he does interrupt them. He does ask them, what do you want for food? What do you want, do you want your bill? Do you want your coffee? Yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
So we got two out of 6 on this one. But, honestly, I don't care because this isn't the kind of movie that the predictions really matter that much. It's not what this movie's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, not
definitely
at all.
not.
It was a very cerebral experience. Well, Twig, with your fortunately failing grade, but understandable failing grade. Let's talk about how you found the movie. Did you like the movie? And did you like having seen it?
Well, this is a top half movie. Yes, I like this movie. I thought it was interesting. For a movie that's just 2 people sitting there talking, which is kind of funny. We had 4 of us in there for the whole movie, and 2 other people who I'm guessing were younger folks popped in and then popped right back out. And it's just like, I guess this movie isn't for anyone, or not what they were looking for on a Discord movie night. But I would say, yes, I did like this movie, and I enjoyed it. And for a movie that's people talking for, almost 2 hours, and, the time went by very fast because I found their conversations engaging and interesting. And even though that, like, I didn't agree with everything they were saying, or they might have gone on a whole long story with a point that wasn't really true, the storytelling itself was still so well done that you were so engaged. It's very engaging conversation, and I really liked that. And the thing is, I kind of want to see it again.
Yeah.
So I guess that puts it up in the pretty good would watch again.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I think I'm going to put it at the bottom of pretty good watch again, but that's still a pretty good spot to be on the list.
My prediction was wrong. I thought you were going to be worth watching once, but
No, I think
I'm not complaining.
I think I'm going to want to see this again because it's going to be interesting, especially after having had this conversation with the two of you. I appreciate the movie more having heard your thoughts and your interpretations, and I want to watch it again with your opinions and thoughts and interpretations in my head and kind of come at it with a different thoughts and different interpretations, and also having my own thoughts about it. Not that I've seen the movie as a whole. What do I think of those early conversations after having heard their later conversations? I want to hear it again. I want to get I want to see it's like how I can maybe recontextualize earlier scenes in the movie after you've seen how the movie ends and after we've discussed it. So I probably will see this again at some point.
I think I'm definitely going to start making it a habit to watch it every few years to see how I align with what they're saying and stuff like that. Because like I said, like at the beginning, when I watched this, I was in high school and college. I didn't have much world experience, and now that I'm like 30, right, almost 10 years later or more, very different vibes coming to it and from it. So like it's definitely worth rewatching. I think more than a few times in one's lifetime.
Yeah, because it's like in college, you probably side more with Andre, but as a working adult, you definitely side more with Wally.
Yeah. Who doesn't want their
100%.
little piece in life, where they can find it?
And I think that's what makes it a great movie, because it becomes like, it kind of becomes a kaleidoscope that, depending on the angle you look at it, it gets a completely new meaning.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely agree.
So
And it was a lot of fun watching it with y'all.
Yeah, thanks for recommending this movie. This was a great conversation. I mean, it's been an hour and a half, and
absolutely.
And like the movie, it doesn't even feel like it's been an hour and a half.
Well, I mean, I think our conversation was just as fun and interesting as the conversation in the movie. I very much enjoyed having like an intellectual conversation with two other smart people. And and I hope our guests enjoyed listening to us talk, because I feel like I don't know, I feel like we had some interesting stories that we told, and I feel good about this conversation. I liked it.
Good. Me too.
Yes.
Definitely watch the movie.
Watch it, Tams. But yeah, I suppose we ought to wrap this up. Is there anything y'all would like to plug?
Just shout outs to my Blue Sky Crowtaur and Crowtaur. And I'm making a tarot deck, and people can support me by becoming a part of it or just sharing it, hopefully, maybe soon we'll run a Kickstarter where we can get the whole thing printed and then also
You can become
finish
a part of the tarot deck?
Yes, by giving me money so I can draw you.
Yes. Dre, give Ray a lot of money, and then you can be the fool.
No. First of all, I'm the emperor. Secondly, all right.
I am planning on making soon much cheaper commission options as kind of like a mini tarot, where I have like easier or more simplified illustrations. But I'll post it when I post it.
Hell yeah.
And thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
And check out Dre and all the regular Dre things that Dre do.
Dre does some good things.
But
I try.
my big plug is 1 week from today is my 40th birthday celebration.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be from noon Central to 8 p.m. Central. We're going to have an episode of Twigs Missing Movies in there. We're going to have an episode of Corvid's Creepers and Conspiracies in there. We're going to play some party games. We're going to have a good time. And so I would, especially for the party game times, it's like, come on, Jackbox, Gardic Phone, show up. More people, the better.
I'll try to be there.
And yeah, hopefully we can do some Pummel Party too. I like Pummel Party. Haven't played Pummel Party in a while. It's going to be good times. It's going to be good times. And,
It is. It will be. Do you have someone you want to raid?
Yeah, we're going to raid Rizaldia.
Okay.
Ooh.
Doll, VTuber, know her through Kyoko. So we're going to head there. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. And if you're on YouTube, you better like and subscribe because we like that.
Like and
Yay.
subscribe.
Yay.
Like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Bye-bye.
We gotta get some like outro music or something. So we can play it over this.
Yes, thank you, Maury the Gremlin, for writing the music. Maury's awesome.
Oh, that's it.
There's music. Wait, what?
Yeah, there's music.
There's not always good music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, outro music?
Yeah.
Am I just dumb and blanking it out of my head?
You usually vibe to it, be like boop 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 beep boop boop boop.
Also, Twig.
I think
thank
I'm
you
just
so
losing
much
my
for the
fucking mind, man.
raid. Let me
I think
go
I'm